All right, all right, all right. We are live, and I am with the majestic Ben Cardall, all the way across the pond. It's a little bit later there. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, sir. I'm good, really good. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, you don't have your deerskin hat on. I see.
No, no,
Uh-oh.
I'm rocking the bald locks today. That's
Don't worry, I'm catching up fast. I definitely have a face for radio. That's for sure. That's why I'm normally a podcaster. Unfortunately, some people watch on here. Now, I've had you on the podcast, and I said, I definitely want to have you back. It's only taken me 18 months or so, but you're back after a fashion. You are a deductionist. What is a deductionist? So for the video, people can learn a deductionist.
well, in short, it's a made up word that makes my job sound cooler. But the reality of what it is I use the skills of Sherlock Holmes, a people reading perspective, to give the impression that I could know more about people than I possibly could, in terms of a sort of quote unquote entertainment demonstration. So I will pick up on certain things about certain individuals, and then try and get as far ahead of the game as possible, where I can have an educated guess as to the outcome. So I can make it look quite ethereal. There's a lot of memory games involved. It's basically all of the elements involved in reading a person, their body language, or you play certain lie detection games. There's memory games. There's it gives a chance for me to read their shoes at times. But the good thing about it is I take these same things and I make them work in non-entertainment sort of fields. I don't know what the proper word is to use the horrific real life. But yeah, I've been consulted on a number of criminal cases.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that because I love stories. And essentially, to see if I'm correct on this, I've had Henrik Fexeus on. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
I've heard the name, nothing more.
He's called the Darren Brown of Sweden.
Wow.
He's pretty good friends with him. He is a mentalist. And what you were describing is kind of what he was describing. You're just kind of putting the Sherlock Holmes spin on it, or, niching down even further. Or as my good friend Chris Lockhead says, category creation.
Exactly.
So you have created the category of deductionist, which is a Holmesian style or approach to mentalism, which Henrik Fexeus said actually came out of mediums.
Yeah, and massively. There's irrespective of whatever your opinion is on that field, you can, in my opinion, you cannot argue with the fact that they are really good people readers and really good at picking up on these little changes in dynamic, little tells that might slip out, little important words, little specific clues about a person that they could jump on. To that end, if Sherlock Holmes didn't talk so much about his process, he could be considered somewhat of a clandestine psychic, more so in that he could walk into a room and know everything about everyone, their entire secrets. If he didn't tell anybody how he did it, that could come across somewhat ethereal, right?
Right. And Henrik, and I'm just comparing it for it, but he essentially described this as a process where he is lying to you, or he's telling you the truth, but you bought a ticket and he's not going to tell you when he's lying or when he's telling the truth. He's sort of mixing it all up together. And of course, as you paid for the admission, so it's an honest liar.
Well, yeah, it's this sort. I'm not too sure of the history on the line, but it's an age-old sort of gag within the community that it is one of the most honest professions. Somebody comes out on the stage in the sort of the role that you buy into is that they are going to lie to you.
Right.
And then they do, right?
Right. And you're on the Penn and Teller side, and Henrik Fexius, not the John Edwards or Uri Geller side, who actually come out and say, oh, no, this is real.
Yeah. Like if you ever come to one of my shows, I don't know how you would, but being across the pond, but
well, not right now. We got the epidemic.
Massively. There's somewhat of a problem.
Yeah.
But like whenever you hear that typical, oh, how did you do it? I'm like, well, I can tell you. It won't be that interesting, but I'll tell you if you want. That's fine. It's no problem. That's the great thing about. And don't get me wrong either. I'm not averse to using a couple of tricks.
It's fun. I mean, you're entertaining people. I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. But when it comes down to the important stuff, for me personally, I would always rather stick to this reading of people aspect, because that way I can tailor make every single performance or every single routine to this person. There's nothing more personal than your own tailor-made form of entertainment that's direct to your own wants, likes, needs, tells, displays, hobbies, interests, lifestyle, this, that, and the other. Right?
Exactly. Now, to let everybody know, I see that we've got a few people who have drifted in, which is awesome. Technically, this is their show. So all of you who are watching, please ask questions in the chat of Ben, and I'll ask questions in between, but I'll try not to hijack too much because I admit I'm greedy. To start us off, though, and this actually came up during the podcast interview too.
Okay.
You have consulted with the police.
Yes.
I would love to hear an example case. Obviously, keep private things private, but I'm sure that you can say Bill instead of Raymond or what have you.
Well, yeah, don't get me wrong. It's nothing so grandiose as a full-scale cross-country case. I've consulted on a number of spousal abuse cases, a number of drug dealing cases, but the one that I talk about the most was I was able to profile a person to such a degree who was. Let me backtrack. I tell this story so often, it's like a Quentin Tarantino film. It's all over the place. There was a woman that was getting sent threatening letters, and they were along the lines of, "We're going to kidnap your children. We're going to murder your pets. We're going to set fire to this part of your house. We want you out of wherever it was that she was living at the time," right? And these letters were printed on a computer. They were delivered by the post, and I was able to build up a profile of the person that was sending these letters to such a degree that when I handed it over, it boiled down to a list of around 4 or 5 people.
How did they come in contact with you or decide, hey, there's this Ben dude, we really want to talk to him because we're stymied?
Well,
how'd that go?
The fortunate thing about it is I've grown up teaching most of my local community martial arts. I started martial arts very, very young, before I started this whole people reading affair. And just whether it was fortunate or whatever it was, I've always kept in touch with pretty much all of them, which is about 30 to 40 of the local police force in varying different roles. And so one day, a friend of mine brought me these letters. He was very open about it, stated that we can't pay you, we can't name you, we just was stuck. In essence, I need, if there's any sort of pointers you can raise, anything at all, it would help. And so they didn't give me the originals. They gave me photographs of the letters, and then I asked for photographs of the envelopes as well. And then I built up a timeline in terms of how they were sent, One of my old personal training clients, when I did personal training for a source of income, she delivered post. She worked for the postal service, and so she was able to tell me what letter boxes and what mail rooms that they went through based upon the stamps that they had on top of the envelope, so I could gain a better idea as to this person's timetable, how they were sending them, when they were sending them. And it was built around the content of the letters, the specific words that were chosen, the fact that there was a color scheme involved, that she was only, sorry, that's sort of giving the end away. It was a woman that was sending the threatening letter. Spoiler alert.
What was it about? Was it just a BS neighborhood dispute type of thing?
Well, the long and short of it is this woman that was sending the letters had targeted this other woman. I didn't hang around for the full psychological breakdown, but she targeted the woman because she looked like the person that, I'm trying to think how to phrase it, the woman who was sending the letters targeted the woman who received them, because the woman who received them looked like the woman whose husband there with. So gotcha. She displacement. I think that's the proper psychological term, but don't quote me because I'm not sure.
Or mistaken identity.
Yeah, but possibly. But the words that were chosen is you're a skinny this. You think you're so beautiful that. Wait till your husband leaves you, and so I can get you on your own and do this and that. And wow. there was some horrific stuff in there. She painted pretty awful word pictures at times, specifically what she was going to do to her pets, the dogs that she had. And being a dog lover myself,
sure.
that sort of got my back up a bit. So I was like, I'm going to find you. And it was through the information that I developed, the locations that I'd been able to find on Google Maps, and they informed me it was about a month or two later, I think, maybe 6 weeks, I don't know, something like. It wasn't very long. They tracked it down to around 3-4 people, and whether it was fortunate or not, again, I don't know. The very first house they knocked on, she confessed.
Awesome. I have the first question, which I know you're going to love. Is it true that you have a tattoo of Robert Downey Jr. on your chest, knowing he's your favorite Sherlock Holmes to date?
Well, yeah, and that's a slightly loaded question, and
I know, I can sense it. So we're going to go through all of it.
I have a bugbear when it comes to Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Sherlock Holmes.
Him or Guy Ritchie? Who's your issue with?
Probably it's Guy Ritchie, right? Probably it's Guy Ritchie. But I can't focus my attention on Guy Ritchie because he's not in the film, right? He doesn't give me anything to fixate my frustration on.
All right.
But yes, I do have a tattoo on my chest. It's not of Robert Downey Jr. As Sherlock Holmes, because I hate that. I hate that portrayal so much. I could talk about why I hate it so often and for so long. The fact that it's portrayed as more of just an out-and-out action film. When, don't get me wrong, if you read the stories, Mr. Holmes didn't shy away from the action at all. But it wasn't as fanciful. It wasn't as...
Well, it's a music video.
Yeah, it was... Boo.
Okay, well, what about Basil Rathbone? You have any issues with him?
No, not at all. Not at all. I love Basil Rathbone because that was a sort of flamboyant display of exactly what it was at the time, the Hammer horror era, right? When you look at things like The Woman in Green, love that film. And if you're going to put Sherlock Holmes around a rogue hypnotist, the intelligence has to match at that almost bubbling psychological displays in terms of these things that happen. And it's brilliant. It's befitting of its era, and it seems like the natural step forward from where the original stories ended, whereas the Downey Jr. franchise seemed to have tried to claw all of what we built up in the noughties and the 2010s and push it back.
Reboot.
Yeah,
kind of a reboot, like new Star Trek or things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just didn't need it. It just did not need it at all.
Okay, I always thought that Basil Rathbone kind of was the traditional Holmes, and everything kind of grew out of that.
Yeah, he's got the nose. He's got the displays that he would do. The fact that Watson, I think he's Nigel Bruce, off the top of my head, that plays the Watson to his Holmes, is quite bumbling at times. And if you read some of the particularly the later stories, as they're both getting on a bit, that's definitely the way that Watson went. And yeah, it's an archetype that people are definitely going to put their own stint on, their own
Sure.
poetic license, whatever it's called. It's just that for me, because Holmes is in my blood now at this stage. Right? So when I see something where you've taken the original and just needlessly gone with it, just shaking it up a bit, for the sake of a big budget tour, an action film, or making millions, sure, whatever the reason was, because I don't know what the reason was. Whatever the reason was, fair dues, you're entitled to your opinion. But when you do it with no just cause, and you throw away so many important areas that the original gave us, like
sure,
the robust energy that he would exude when he caught the whiff of some clue or some idea that he just couldn't put down, instead of randomly drinking embalming fluid because it looked quirky. Like,
all right. So who is the tattoo of?
The tattoo here is it's sort of a Jack the Ripper. I mean, I can show you if you want.
I'm just wondering who it was. So, I mean, we're bearing the lead.
It's like it's built into my. I've got a Sherlock Holmes half sleeve, so okay, it starts with like a loomy sort of London street with the fog and the shadow cast of the detective, and then it moves around into some of the Sidney Paget sketches, perched over the table, completing the chemistry, and the magnifying glass, and then I've got the Deductionist in the original Dancing Men code on my shoulder as well.
So not a specific actor. Okay.
No. Well, I've got Peter Cushing. I've got Peter Cushing here.
Oh, all right.
Peter Cushing's here, and it's slowly making its way down my arm. My all-time favorite is Jeremy Brett.
Okay.
From the ITV series. For me, that encapsulates the embodiment of like it's been lifted off the pages, and I'm getting married in the same place that they actually filmed The Hound of the Baskervilles for Jeremy Brett as well, which is a particular sort of.
Congratulations twice.
Thank you.
All right, let me jump into here. Next question goes back to the original topic. Has your consultation with the law enforcement ever extended to anything outside the UK?
Yes, it has. My trepidation is only over what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not. But yes, I know a number of PIs in the States.
Okay.
As it were, and one of which sent me a couple of audio recordings of, again, some spousal abuse stuff to try and fit together motives and the pathology of the individuals at the time. What else have I been sent? I've been sent some security camera footage for a couple of armed robberies. But like, whether it's good or not is the sort of trade-off, because I'm being asked these questions at times by these guys in the States that I'm never going to be able to answer, because I don't live in America. I have no idea of what day-to-day life is in the States at all. So when they're asking me to put together like day-to-day actions of the individual, I can give you a breakdown of what this particular individual is inclined to do, based on the reads of them in this particular moment, how they are in this particular moment. But as soon as they leave the shop, that's where my data ends. And I can't, if I'm going to paraphrase Holmes, I can't make the next brick because there's no more clay. Right?
So is it things like I'll use what probably be a screamingly obvious example is if somebody let's say is very much stronger or favors one arm, they could be a tennis player.
In a nutshell,
that type of thing.
In a nutshell. So I'm looking for possible red flags in those type of scenarios, because with it being overseas, there's only so many things that I'm going to be able to be given, right? Because there's only so many things that you can send over. So
you could pick up like a laborer, you could kind of say that person seems like someone who works outdoors or works with their hands, or they load lorries.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working in things like job opportunities, job roles, which would lead to possible motivating, the MO for the robbery, so you can reverse engineer, or you use the pragmatic theory of abduction. It's just reasoning backwards to try and figure out the genesis of getting them from A to pointing a gun at somebody.
Is some of it too the determining through body language and otherwise maybe familiarity with the environment? I don't know if that would be a factor, but like if you're watching a video of somebody in a mask and they seem to know exactly where to go, or could that be a tell? Like they seem too familiar with their surroundings. Yeah,
100%, because everything I'm being given is in that particular scene or scenario. So every little point I can make is based in there. So
how would you break it down? Okay, I send you a video, and we're not spoiling any case now. I just send you a video of something that goes on. What do? You just kind of sit back, watch it all the way through, and just kind of don't do anything? Don't really think about it, just sort of watch it?
I have a sort of a protocol that I'll go through in terms of how it works. I'll watch the video, first of all, normal speed, and then I'll watch the video at half speed.
Now, are you looking for anything? That's why I'm kind of wondering if you're even looking to start, if you're just kind of like just watching it just to kind of just get a vibe of this happened, that happened, that went on.
Yeah, that's why I watch it at different speeds, because the sort of the timeline of what happens in there, I get a better sense of the important actions. So I'll watch it at half speed, and I'll watch it fast forwarded as well. So you get to grips in any terms of robust body movements that normally go unnoticed in terms of normal cadence. It might be that particular gestures, if we were doing mine, it might be that most of my gestures are up here, but it isn't until it's slowed things down that every now and again it goes up here. And it might be worthless as information, but it's something that I'm just getting my bearings around in terms of understanding point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, the exact timeline of what this person did, how they moved, where they went. So you can put together how they were thinking within the environment, the thoughts that led to certain movements, and then the reasons behind those movements that would give you the reason for their displays, whether that be they're acting out of fear, overcompensation in terms of strength, whether it's a deeper psychological roots, whether they are scared and just looking for money to pay their bills, to use the cliche.
Sure. How about sound, if available? I know that not all video has sound, but nowadays, especially, a lot of times sound is recorded. Would you watch it with sound or deliberately not have sound and maybe explore them both separately?
I would always explore everything separately and then put it together at the end.
Okay.
But to this time, I've never been sent anything with sound. As a video, I've always been sent an audio clip of something, or this is a video clip of something else. So I've never been sent one both together yet. But that is how I would tackle it, given the opportunity, because I like to put together all of the separate streams of information.
Sure.
Like we've got our conversation going on, but if we could turn up the volume on everything, I could hear how you were moving in the chair. I could hear your breathing when it changed. I could hear if any of there's something going on around outside or nearby your house. Right. You know, I could hear if an air conditioner kicked on. You said it was 2,000 degrees earlier. You know, and then I would put together all of these little things that I'd noticed from every single stream, so I've got as clear a picture as possible, as if I was actually there. You know. Now,
when I'm going to guess then, are you in fact a sound editor then and video editor? And I say this because I would think if you're going to check sound, and since I do podcasting, I work with sound, and a lot of mine is to get rid of those things that you're listening for because they're not cool in my environment. But I have tools such as RX7, which is used for fixing it. And you can use AI to pick out a particular nuisance sound. Yeah. Do you do some of the same thing and say, well, you know what? I don't want to pick it out for that. I actually want to pick it out to hear it.
Yeah. I have RX7 as well. I do a lot of it in Adobe Premiere Pro too, because just based on the little nuances, I can pick out particular points easier. So
right,
I
spectrums.
A couple of seconds. And how they move as well. There's nothing professional about it. I'm taught by YouTube lessons and nothing more.
Well, welcome to it.
Yeah, but it works, right? It works. But yeah, that's definitely how I do it as well. Don't get me wrong. If I could consult other people to do it for me, I would. But like, some of this information shouldn't already come to me, right? So I don't want to send it off any further.
No, I totally understand that, but I just am curious about workflow, especially when one skill set, like you could benefit by being going to an audio engineering class.
Yeah, definitely.
For the opposite reasons that I would benefit.
Yeah, and massively. And I would make sure it's never the earphones that plug in. It's always much like yourself, the ones that cover. So you get a complete sort of
immersion.
Perfect word. And you get complete immersion into exactly what that sound is. And all I want, like I was saying, is as clear a picture as possible, as if I was actually there, right? Because that's going to better equip me in order to throw my 2 cents into the ring in the best way that I possibly can.
Well, awesome. I love methodology. And speaking of which, you wrote a book about a lot of this, and somebody's asking, can you tell us a little bit about the book you wrote and where can we get it? And no, I'm not mailing my copy. It's just a hardcover, so you got a couple extra bucks out of me.
Amazing. Thank you, first of all. But yes, the monographs is it's one of those things that I wrote as if it's the book I would have wanted when I first started training. So I wanted everything sort of under one spine in terms of the development of mindset, memory techniques, memory palace creation, how this can apply to real-world observational awareness, how to train this, body language, deception detection, facial reading, picking up people's jobs, hobbies, interests, tattoos, shoes. The chapter on shoes is nuts.
You're the shoe guy.
Yeah, I did. I had a shoe guy. He gave me 1,800 pairs of shoes to work with. And this is on top of all of the other data that Google Scholar could give me on every other topic and every other bibliography that I managed to come across.
This is why you get along so well with this guy.
Yes, Mr. Hughes.
Both nerds.
Unashamed. Unashamed. But yes, the monographs itself is, I wanted something that would take somebody that's come to this with absolutely zero experience, and you could go out and be proficient in your utilization of these skills, but also give something to the people that have been in this field for 5, 10, 15 years, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, you can get it from Amazon, you can get it from the Strand magazine, the Book Depository, you can get it from me.
Will there be an audiobook?
There is. That audiobook is the bane of my life at the minute. I've been uploading this off and on for close to 2.5 years.
ACX problems?
ACX problems. Yes.
You can always send it my way and I can do a technical edit.
Yeah. Outstanding. Yeah. I mean, I'll do that.
Okay, cool.
I'm at the point where I'm ready to take all of my files and throw them away.
Okay.
But well, yes, it's a 14-hour recording of me talking.
Fantastic. And everybody, you hear what he sounds like, so look out for it. But let's take a minute to just look at the book for a second. And a dummy like me who has no knowledge whatsoever, and I want to learn, what is a good way for me to tackle the subject? Let's say using your book to say, okay, I want to get ahead in my corporate life. Let's just say that.
Right. So first things first, I would always encourage anybody, regardless of their experience, to start out with the development of the correct mindset towards this, right? Because no matter what skills that you put on top of that, no matter what extraneous knowledge that you put on top of that, it is your mindset that's going to wield that for you, right?
Like visualization, things like that?
Not necessarily visualization, but the practicing in terms of how to develop your rational awareness in terms of problem solving, how to quieten that tiny little voice inside of your head that tells you certain models of thinking in certain scenarios, that can often tell you false truths of a situation, that can tell you that big, hairy, tattooed guys are mean, motorbike driving, heavy metal heads, right?
Well, you're most of that. You just don't necessarily ride the motorcycle, right? No.
That's true. That's true.
I've seen your gym work there with the chains, man. I'm not going to rescue you tomorrow. I'm only 6'2".
Well, there was a situation outside my house the day before my birthday. A guy got a baseball bat around his head, which was horrific. But that's a story for that's a story for another day, or in a minute. I mean, but I would always encourage you to develop your mindset first. I bring to it what I just refer to as a trifecta. You want your reflexes developed in line with your memorization skills and control of that inner voice, because as soon as one of those three things falls out of the wayside, your presence, nothing spiritual, but your presence in that particular moment that you're in, goes out of the window. You are no longer observing the information. Your locus of control have come inward, because you're starting to, no matter which one of the three has fallen apart, you're starting to become more intrinsically focused on what's happening here. Why can't I remember this? What does this shirt logo mean? Why am I sweating? Am I attracted to this person? All of these sort of reflex reactions that we've built up through our time existing in society, are not all of them are built towards utilizing these skills for whatever environment that you're in. So I would encourage anybody right from the get-go to just visit chapter 1, first of all.
Okay.
Just take heed of the lessons that are in there to build that solid focus in terms of, all right, I'm here for the information, for the data that this person in the boardroom is going to give me. I know I've done the training. I know I have a lot of book knowledge under the hood, as it were. how am I going to put that to better use if not to take control of what this delicious muscle inside of my head can do for me, and make sure that I make it work for me, as opposed to me being a backseat driver to these dopamine-based stories that can be filtered out and make us feel certain ways and poison certain truths of the matter. Like, we've all been in that scenario where something's happened too quickly, and then you've wondered, oh, that might have been important, and then you're already on the back foot, and that is a slippery slope. If you've not done the correct level of mindset training in order to rein that back in, and stay on point, then you're already on the back foot. So that's where I would start with that. Perhaps the boardroom, in terms of the best place to go from there, would be the jobs chapter and the chapter on clothing displays, because I do have a chapter on body language, but make no mistake, it's one chapter, right? There are hundreds of.
I actually want to address the body language part, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mark Bowden.
Yes.
Okay, I've had him on multiple times. He cracks me up because he's another cheeky Brit like you, by way of Canada. But he always says, people say, can you tell me, and I'm not going to do an accent, I'm only going to make so much of a fool of myself. Can you tell me about such and such? Are they lying? Are they telling the truth? And he goes, why does it matter? Who cares? Why do you care? Why do you want to know? And I, for some reason, thought about it just now. I'm like, I'm going to ask you, why does it matter, body language? Why do we want to know, or do we?
Well, I think that's one of those deeper questions, right? It's an internal curiosity. It's whether you are comfortable with the story that you're putting out there, or you've got some deeper concerns about what you're projecting to the world. There's that sort of whether it's pop psychology or not, I'm not entirely sure. But your initial thoughts of other people are only a projection of yourself without control. Yes. So if you're so curious about what their elbow movements mean, or what this facial twitch means, perhaps it relates to the deeper truth that you don't want to come under that kind of scrutiny yourself. So I would say that in answer to that question, it's going to be more about the person in terms of themselves, right? Because I am fortunate enough through the training that I get to see and understand a great deal about a person. But if you explore that logical train of rationalization, that's only because I'm very comfortable, insecure in who I am as a person. If you have some deeper curiosity to employ someone like me or Mark, then you have a curiosity about the relationship between yourself and this other person, and what information this other person can give to you, but what information that you are hiding or conscious of giving away as a result. So I'd say that people are only curious mostly because they don't want to leak that level themselves. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I personally feel, and I'm sure the others would agree, that I just don't care. Because every time, if I was trying to cover up I'm twitching, oh shoot, then I would, twitch another way to cover up the first way to do the. So it's kind of like, whatever.
Yeah,
it's just,
it becomes a try to grab soap. It's like.
Exactly, and then my actions will probably be even more telling, or whatever. So it's just
Exactly. If you relinquish control, right? Relinquish control. And what the first time I heard this quote, it came from a Darren Brown show. He said it was from somewhere else, but that's where I found it. It was that you worry less about what people think of you when you realize how often they seldom do.
Oh, yes. I'm actually a runner. I'm very lapsed at the moment, but I would try to help people, especially who are losing weight, which I need to work on myself. And they would be like, I can't be out there everybody's going to be laughing at me. And I think you own a gym or run a gym.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you run into this as well. And I do think it's relevant here. And the truth is that most of the time I would just say to them, okay, you drove home. Did you see any joggers or runners? And they'd be like, maybe. And I'd be like, okay, what were they wearing? What do they look like? And honestly, unless there's something very striking about them, like let's say an extremely attractive person
Yeah.
of their opposite sex or something like that, or they were wearing, like a Flash, as in a comic book character outfit, they didn't even acknowledge it. Nobody cares about us. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Definitely. I used to do a similar thing when I worked in one of the big popular corporate gyms with my clients. I'm so nervous. Watch this. And I'd stand on top of one of the treadmills and go, I'm wearing women's underwear. And everyone's still.
Or they look over at you and go, and
yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. You're in there doing your own thing, unless the environment calls for somebody to care, like you're doing a particular move wrong and you're at risk as a result. Then same rules apply to the body language for me, unless the situation calls for somebody to try and get some level of information. Then nobody cares. Nobody cares. I can't. Even as invested as I am in this life, it's cellular, but I still can't go outside and recall a time where I've gone, I'm going to watch this guy's feet, see what they do. I can't ever recall that time at all, right? Mostly because, like, when I'm reading a person, I'm reading a person. Whatever happens, right?
Sure.
As a result. So if you're too focused on that, then you're missing the bigger picture.
Well, while we're at it and talking about not caring, next question: your life's work. No, I'm just kidding. Your life's work.
Where's the end call?
Your life's work, which you teach, is dedicated to skills which are applicable in real life situations. How has this helped you and others that you know of?
Wow. Yeah. Wow. The way I could count the ways it's helped me. It helps me in every single scenario ever at all. Right. If there's going to be a time where I don't know, I've gone to a new shop and my better half's gone, where's this? I'm going, it's over there. And I've not even paid just because I'm always on, as it were. My observation is always switched on. When my kids tell me that they've done their homework, I can still always pick out the truth from the false. But that's social examples, right? Sure. I always know where my keys are. I always know what I'm up to on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the work, the applicable work, if you look at the entertainment side, I can be what I say I am. Right? Most magicians, mentalists, deductionists, whatever you want to call them, right? Whatever you want to call them, you are either what you are. You are either what you are, or you're a likable, confident, amiable chap who knows where to shop. That's the difference for me. So I choose to live this life as intrinsically as what I can. So when it comes to people, you get the spectators who want to put up a fight, in terms of throwing down challenges or whatever. That's fine. I'll deal with them because I'm doing what I say I'm doing, right? We're living that truthful display, but so everyone can always have a real good time there. And in terms of the benefit it has in the real world applications, people can make themselves and the people around them safer as a result. Jobs get completed efficiently, maximize time in order to achieve incredible outputs as a result. my son learnt to verbalize the periodic table in half an hour. Like just as some of the memory skills we applied.
Right.
I showed one of the security guards that I teach online how he could apply the simple basics of memory techniques to reading a person, and so now he is showing towards his bosses that he can successfully keep him and his crew safe around, whilst making sure the people in front of him come in a timely fashion. So there's no slowed down queues. There's no people getting anxious or agitated that can cause disruptions.
Can you work with the TSA for us, please?
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to. The security guard has since got promotions. If you're able to maximize what this does for in half the time, I fail to see of a situation where this can't benefit you, as in anyone, in a positive light. It's the ultimate transferable skill in terms of that dynamic from the bosses. No, I hate that word. Rather, from the leaders that I've spoken to, they are better equipped to make sure that their team is functioning smoothly. They're able to take charge of any particular issues that may arise before they arise, because they can jump on particular tells, or they've made particular deductions about a particular group of people that don't work well together, so they can try and channel Joan and Bob for a conversation so they can get to know each other a bit better before they work together to make sure this group functions well. And that ability to deal with like 4, 5, 6 different streams of information at the same time means you're going to cope a lot better under stress. Your reactionary responses are going to be a lot more based in truth of exactly what's happening than emotional response, which is a clouded reasoning. As a result, you get to make these informed decisions based upon whatever outcome that you're in, and an informed decision is only going to give you time to make the proper outcome based on all of the relevant information, and not be forced into a reactive spot. Bruce Lee used to talk about act, don't react, because you're already in the backseat as a result from there. So these skills that I teach are very much tailor-made by the person who brings their questions to me, because you and I can use the same skill, but because we have wildly different day-to-day lives, we're going to use it in different ways, right? So
that's like Blink. Have you read Blink by Malcolm Gladwell?
I have.
Okay, so that would be a good example where you had the guy who could look at a statue and say it's a forgery, even though it had been authenticated by everybody in the world. His specialty is there, but then he could look at something else and be completely clueless. Exactly. Thus, our views would obviously be different, or anybody's would, depending on your ability, your experience, your profession, your experience again.
But it's true, right? That's why I come back to mindset so often, because this is going to wield the skills for you, regardless of your experience that you've got or the knowledge that you bring to the particular situation that you're in. It is this that's going to be, I don't know what the English word is I need. It's this that's going to wield it for you. It's this that's going to make it happen. So you need to take care of this to make sure that it serves you in the best possible way. So
you and I, that's why we're both balding, is that we want to carefully tend to what's underneath.
I've got this thing that I do, and my better half constantly giggles when I do it. Like I had a moment earlier when me and the kids, we were watching the new Addams Family film, and for some reason Christina Ricci's 40 now. Don't know why I thought it, just did. Googled it, and she is exactly 40, and so I'll go, well done, brain, well done. I've got these moments where, like,
but is that confirmation bias? What do you do when you're wrong?
Well, it's a learning experience. It's a learning experience. I've always lived by the adage that I'm either right or I'll learn something.
So it's like, well done, or oh, well, there you go.
Well done, or we got work to do. It's either a whole pat or a come on, we're better than that.
Speaking of work to do, we have a question here from, I haven't said the same name before, but Amir Samardzik, I'm guessing. Forgive me if I'm way off. I am more of a visual learning kind of guy. Do you have any kind of training on course, online, or DVD?
It just so happens that I do. The first thing that I put out, and this Amir could be my product placement guy, right?
Yeah, hey, there you go.
Yeah, I've got a DVD series out called Pipes, Problems, and Reading People. That's pretty much like a DVD version of the monographs. So the first DVD is dedicated to mindset training and awareness games, and seeing exactly the pitfalls and the positives that this has already, an experience test. DVD 2 is about your memory, and then the rest of the course goes through lie detection, reading objects, paraphernalia, medical tells, observation, jobs, hobbies, interests, likes, and then the final DVD is scenarios, putting it all together. So I got a group of actors from the local agency to act out scenes, and particularly they weren't given any costumes, and they were only given 1 or 2 props in terms of the things to use, and so everything else that you get as a result has to be processed via the skills that you've just been learned. So just been taught rather. So I have that out, and then I've got.
Well, for those of us across the pond, is it downloadable somewhere versus a DVD? Because,
yes, it is. I have downloads available through my Etsy store.
Okay.
And then I have also done a series of YouTube live lectures in terms of particularly the senses. So
I'm going to celebrate that.
So the YouTube lectures were done in terms of the senses. So if you restrict everything else and focus just on sight, restrict everything else and focus just on smell, and so those get really niche in terms of the forensics behind smelling when somebody's cried recently.
Yes, you have forensics behind tobacco.
Yes, yeah, I've
we had a chat about that.
Yeah, well, I can tell you about that. Yeah, afterwards, the Monographs Live is something that I've got as well, and I'm also starting a 12-week training program with Love with Intelligence. Online as well.
Oops, that leads into that right here. Matthias Ciado. Hey, Ben, first of all, happy birthday. That was yesterday, I believe.
Yeah.
And could you please talk about your upcoming project? So might as well have the prompt in there.
Perfect, right? Thank you very much for the well wishes. The projects I'm working on at the minute, I've got a number of things that I'm working on with a number of wonderful people, including the 12-week program. I've got my own course on operational awareness, which is, I suppose, a fancy way of developing that Jason Bourne-like awareness. If you look at the diner scene from the first film, that's probably the most approachable version that people would understand, right? It's based on the foundations of myself and my friend Adam's work. If you look at
Adam,
Adam, he's the. If you've ever seen my web series, Adam is the guy that does the filming. He does the editing. He does everything. He's
just Adam. He's like Madonna, a single name guy.
Adam Golamorley, his name is.
Okay. I want to give him some credit.
He's a creative wizard, love him to bits.
Cool.
But he constantly, like without fail, we'll be walking, like, even if we're going to the pub for a few drinks, right? And a few cars drive past. What was the license plate on that car? Shut up! And he's like, how many pens were in that guy's pocket? What does that guy do for a living? Like, and it's great because I constantly get this training whilst being able to. Sorry, my dog's about to push my line over. Go away.
I was wondering who that was.
Yeah,
intermittently.
The clippity clop on the floor. It's a clause. But yeah, my friend Adam constantly keeps me intact with that. But those are the courses that I've got coming up, and then I'm also working on the follow-up to the monographs, which is where the cigarettes comes into play. The follow-up to the monographs.
It's a medical one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, if the first one were, if Holmes were a real person alive today, what would be in his head to allow him to do what he does? The follow-up is more, if House were a real person, what sort of rudimentary training would he have to go through in order to be able to do the things that he does, right? Make no illusions, this is not a medical textbook at all. I aren't anywhere near that clever. So what I've been doing as a result of that, I'm doing a degree in formative medicine. I got qualified as a doorman, a bouncer.
You've said that before, a doorman. I guess it's a bouncer. What is the qualification? Is it don't harm people? I've never heard of a qualification for that other than being a brute.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's a country divide then, but particularly over here, you need an NVQ level 3 in personal protection and safe manual handling, first aid awareness, and the approaches of CPR training.
So is it like the cab drivers there that you take it to a whole new level?
I guess so. It's like the knowledge, right? And then from there you get what's called an SIA license, and then you can go and take jobs. You can go and work in a supermarket. I chose to work on the doors at nightclubs and the like, so I can get to grips with the drug culture and displays. And put my money where my mouth is.
Relationships between men and women and things like that, or against each other. I'm sure that there's a lot more entertainment for your visualization at a nightclub versus a grocery store. Massively.
And the best part for me as well, particularly within that dynamic, is I don't have to talk to any of them unless it's a situation's getting out of control and I have to step in, but I can step back and just do what I do,
right.
As a result. So that's given me a great learning curve from that aspect. I've been able to get some work experience in the medicinal aspect as well, but with the tobacco chapter, I took it upon myself, right, to see if there was any truth to I can differentiate between 143 different types of tobacco ash. So it cost me a freaking fortune because I sent money out. Thanks to social media, I've got friends all over the world now. So I sent money out, send me some tobacco products, whatever you got, whether it's roll-ups, pipes, cigars, whatever, send it to me.
So you paid to have your lungs thrashed for weeks.
Yeah, and now bear in mind, I'm also an asthmatic.
Yes.
So I pretty much locked myself up in a shed.
Can we talk about the nurturing of your brain here for a minute?
Well, I sort of felt like Breaking Bad at times because I'd have to come out and go and then shut the door. So it was nowhere near laboratory conditions or anything like that. But I was looking at how this would display in terms of environments that you would encounter the ash on a day-to-day basis. So around the homes, in ashtrays, in bars, in clubs, when it was interacted with certain liquids, just to see, perhaps from that nerdier aspect.
You think?
Yeah, I bought my forensics degree along with it. And
what's a forensics degree?
I got my first degree in I got my second degree in forensic psychology.
Okay.
And so there's not a great deal of inner work on the makeup of cigarettes and the like, but
I hope not. Psychology and cigarettes.
It puts you in touch with many people that do know that, because they work in similar fields. So they gave me a huge source of information in how to test, sort of on a MacGyver level, for different chemicals, different chemical displays. Like there's certain things formaldehyde will do when it's interacting with water, but there's certain things it will do when it's interacting with spirits, when it's interacting with beer and lager, right? It flakes and protrudes in different ways, and it turns different colors. So as a result of that, I didn't get 143. I got 7. So I can differentiate now between 7, which so far useless.
I decided not to start there, but that's kind of where I was to begin with. I just saved the time.
Utterly useless.
Oh, except as a story that you can tell.
Yes, yeah, as a story I can tell, right? Unless you're like there's a guy that I know who sends me pictures of ashtrays and asks me to read people based upon the ashtrays. That's been the only. I mean, don't be wrong. It gets a lot of good hits, as it were, if you want to look at it from a media perspective, or if you look at it from an abstruse sort of Sherlock Holmes perspective. I can read someone by their ashtray, But in terms of realistically, useless at the minute.
Well, you have a lot more useful information, and to wrap up, everybody should check you out on YouTube, right? Just under Ben Cardall.
Yes, pop in Ben Cardall. And you can't go wrong. You'll see my big hairy face pop up at you straight away.
And less hairy head. And for everybody else here, if you like the
time frame, I did used to have long hair, and then slowly as the years have gone by, it's just vanished.
Yeah, it's called age. And for everybody else here, if you like guests like Ben Cardall, and we mentioned Chase Hughes, and he's been up multiple times, all on this channel. Click down below, hit that subscribe, hit the bell, please. It really does help, and it helps me attract more guests like Ben to come on. And for today, Ben, thank you so much.
My pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for having me.